Okay, awesome. Good evening to you all. Thank you for joining us for yet another edition of Shifting Gears with Tibane Group. This is our fourth episode. Um, yeah, and I'm just happy to have you on board. Thank you for coming. Thank you for being with us last week. This is our second paid session, and I'm just happy that you could join us. I would like to recognize my colleagues, Dr. Alamein. I see Nsako. I see, okay, Ria, thank you for joining us. Let me also acknowledge those that are joining us. Ongani, I see you. Masasheba, I see you. I see Tulani, I see Tumi. Thank you for joining us. We'll probably get time to talk to you, have you unmute and share a little bit as we go along. But I want to redeem the time because last week we realized that even though we go for 1 hour, 30 minutes, we still find ourselves short for time. So we will not waste time during this introductory session. Today we are focusing on resetting your site. Resetting your site. I hope you are excited, you are alert, you are attentive, you don't have any distractions. This is for your benefit. I hope you've come expectant. I'll head over to Prof. John Tibane to take over. He is going to be talking about resetting your site this evening. I hope you are looking forward to that. If you can unmute, share your screen and take over. Thank you very much.
Well, good evening, colleagues, good evening, associates, good evening, friends. I am hoping, let me see if I can see myself well positioned. There we are. What an honor for me to have you join us once again today, even as we talk on resetting. And as you know, this is Shifting Gears with Tibane Group, and it is season 2. I know that there are some people who are joining us for the first time today. We just want to let you know that this Shifting Gears with Tibane Group has been happening since last year during COVID. Last year we had season 1, and this is our season 2 this year, and we'll continue with other seasons. And this particular season it's focusing on the recent book that I've written, which is the Reset Blueprint. That's why it's called the Reset Blueprint series. And in this context, there are sessions that are free and there are sessions that are paid for, like last week's session, today's session, and next week's session are paid for. Then thereafter, there will be a free episode that will be not paid for. Then thereafter, going back to the paid one. So that's basically how we are doing it. So we welcome you, those of you who have joined us for the first time today. And I think Masishaba is joining us for the first time. We have Bongani Ntuli. Welcome all. There will be a little break somewhere where we'll chat in terms of what business are you in, what are you doing, etc., etc. But we want to get onto it right now. Like Tinashe said last week, yeah, it was a marathon, and I didn't get a chance to give you guys enough time to ask questions and things like that. I'm going to do my best today to do just that. So I'm going to time myself, and I hope I shall respect my timing so that I make time for us to have a conversation. So today we are going to be dealing with resetting your site. Last Wednesday, we talked about resetting your sanity. But just for the sake of those who are joining us for the first time, just to let you know that this thing really, we are doing it because catalytic events happen in our lives. These are traumatic events. These are events that come to disturb the way we do business. They obliterate what used to be a normal, and we call it an old normal. And these events, they give birth to a new normal, a new world. And that is why we need to, first of all, survive the crisis, let go of the old normal, and embrace the new normal so we can thrive in it. And this requires us to be responsive if we want to survive the crisis. It requires us to be resilient if we want to be able to let go of the old normal. And resilience here is defined as bouncing forward, not bouncing back, because there is no back to bounce to, but bouncing forward to the new normal. But having bounced to the new normal, you don't want to be an underdog in the new normal. You don't want to be a victim of the new normal. You need to thrive in the new normal. And that is why you need to reset, because you might have been properly set for the old normal, but it is no longer there. So therefore, you must set yourself up for success once more. You need to appropriately reset. You need to appropriately reposition yourself so you can thrive in the new normal. That's really the background of the session, and that's also the background of the book, The Reset Blueprint. Now, in the book, we talk about survival tactics like mental agility, leveraging the crisis, etc. And we also then talk about reset strategies or reset elements, and there are 7 of them. And the reason why we are focusing on these particular 7 is because they are the ones that get messed up by a crisis. In my research and in my observation, I've seen that real crises, they actually come to offset these 7 elements. And that is why after a crisis or even during a crisis, you then need to work on those 7 elements that have been disturbed by a crisis. And a crisis can be anything, divorce, insolvency, bankruptcy, loss of a loved one, or a catastrophe like COVID-19 pandemic, etc. All these kinds of crises or storms that happen in our lives, whether they are personal, relational, financial, organizational, national, and otherwise, these crises, they will always affect these 7 elements: your sanity, your sight, your stage, your sales, your standards, your sound, your scale, even as we are going to be talking about all this. So that's the reason why we are dealing with this. So last time we dealt with resetting your sanity, and today we are going to talk about resetting your sight. And then, of course, this is the presentation we gave to you in terms of mental agility, which is one of the survival tactics, just showing you where we came from. And then we talked about thought mastery, which we will not get into again. But those of you who are joining us for the first time, you can request the recording of this, and then so that you can catch up with us. Last week, like I said, we dealt with resetting your sanity, and we had a lot to say about resetting your sanity. Unfortunately, we will not get into that. It will be very nice for you to get the recording. Those of you who didn't attend, and those of you who did, I'm sure that you did get the recording, and you can go through these as well. This was the portrait of a sane mind. If your mind is reset, it will have these 5 dimensions, and we dealt with them in detail last time. We also then dealt with the fact that a reset mind or a sane mind thrives on 3 thinking styles: discontinuous thinking, zero-based thinking, disruptive thinking, etc. And then, of course, we then talked about the spectrum of innovation, which obviously the most preferred is disruptive innovation, which brings about revolution. In other words, the idea that we are not making the old things to be better, but we actually make new things. So it's not looking at an old way of doing things and make it better, but you actually come with a new way of doing things. Sorry for those of you who just joined us today, in case you feel that this should have been so great, but you will get the recording. And then, of course, we then were about to deal with how do you develop a new mindset. And time was up, and I promised that before we start with resetting your sight, I will just conclude the portion of resetting your sanity. And part of resetting your sanity, it's really about developing a new mindset. We gave a definition of what is a mindset, and we say a mindset is a mind that is set on something. That's really what it is about. A mind that is set on something. But now, this is very critical. To set your mind on something, you must first orientate your mind to it. To set your mind on a thing, you must first orientate your mind to that thing. And I will explain what is an orientation. Here is an example. If we hire a person to be a videographer of a soccer match, this person will have to set his camera on the soccer match in order to capture the essence of the soccer match. He will be told, if he is a good videographer, what are the critical parts that he must never miss if he is to capture the essence of the soccer match. Those critical things or critical elements or critical aspects that he must never miss, those are called orientations. So in other words, he is going to be using this video camera to capture various elements of the match, which he must never miss. So for example, they will tell him that never miss when a goal is being scored. Never miss the kicking of a penalty. Never miss the kicking of a whatever, a free kick, for example, never miss that. Never miss when a goalkeeper saves the goal. You must never miss these elements. Those are called orientations. So the videographer will be moving his video all over the stadium. He can pick up on something like somebody scratching his nose or somebody beating someone, but he must never catch that at the expense of scoring a goal. He must never catch that at the expense of the goalkeeper saving the goal. This is a very critical thing for you to understand. So there could be 5, there could be 7, there could be 10 things that are essential that the videographer must capture. And if he does that or she does that, then we will say he has captured the match. In other words, he has set his camera on the match only if he has caught the following 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 things. Those are called orientations. So in any area, therefore, be it a relationship, you can have a relationship mindset, a soccer match mindset, a business mindset, a customer care mindset. Now, once you say you have a mindset for something, it means there are certain elements that you have identified where you are going to have what we call orientations. I am going to give an example of a business mindset and then show you in general terms what would be business orientations, which when they are put together, they give you a business mindset. So even in a relationship, you will be saying, what are the critical things that I must orientate myself on so I can develop a relationship business mindset? If I want to set my mind on a relationship, what are the critical things that I must orientate myself to? Church, for example, if we're saying we are doing church, what constitutes a church? What are the elements that you must never miss? But you can even reduce that to a small thing such as a sermon presentation, not the whole church, but just a sermon presentation. What are the critical things that you must never miss if you are to say this was a full sermon? So a mindset is a mind that is set on something. Now, this is important because having gone through a crisis, you may then say, for us to thrive in the new normal, where are we going to set our minds on? On what are we going to set our minds? We are going to set our minds on this. Now, once you say we are going to set our mind on this, that is called a mindset. But for it to be a mindset, there must be elements that constitute that set. We call them orientations. So here is an example of business orientations if you are developing a business mindset. And I'm really giving it to you in generic terms. But before I show you those orientations, let me say that business people develop a series of orientations or general tendencies of thinking that separate them from the average person. Listen to that, very important. Business people develop a series of orientations or general tendencies of thinking that separate them from the average person. Successful business people have developed a business mindset, but that business mindset is a product of a number of business orientations or general tendencies of thinking. So the way they handle money, the way they handle time, the way they handle relationships, the way they deal with people, the way they deal with rejections, etc., etc. They have developed general tendencies of thinking, which then make them to have that business mindset. These orientations soon become habitual ways of thinking and acting that make them mentally fit for business. They become mentally fit for business. They may not be mentally fit for other things because they may not have a mindset for other things. But when it comes to business, they are mentally fit for business because they have these general tendencies, which we call orientations, which have now become habitual ways of thinking. And I'm hoping that you are walking with me somewhere because this is crucial. I want you to think of the new normal and ask yourself, what kind of a mindset do you need for the new normal? Like all habits, fortunately, these ways of thinking are both teachable and learnable. They are both teachable and learnable, and they are learnable through practice and repetition. Now, because of time, let me quickly then show you what would be business orientations if you are to develop a business mindset. Now, this is our approach from Tibane Group, and you can have your own approach, and others may have other approaches, and these are very generic, and we call them the 5 essential business orientations. In other words, if you want to develop a business mindset, meaning if you want to set your mind on business, you must not miss these 5 elements. In other words, if this was a soccer match, if you are to set your mind on the soccer match, make sure that your camera does not miss out on production, on process, on performance, on people, on profit. If the video camera is able to capture these 5 things, then you have captured the match. Never capture something else that may be exciting and interesting at the expense of one of these. So just like the videographer who is trying to record a soccer match, there may be something very interesting at the corner of the stadium somewhere where, like I said, someone is picking up his nose. That could be interesting. Or someone is fighting with somebody. That could be interesting. But if he's going to capture that and miss out on the opportunity of capturing the moment when a goal was scored, this person is a bad videographer. What we are saying with what you see on the screen, if you are going to be orientating yourself on other things which may be interesting, and you are doing that at the expense of these 5 things, you do not have a business mindset. Now, like I've said, this is our approach from Tibane Group, but there could be emphasis in other aspects depending on who is assisting you. But this, we have thought about them very carefully, that if you want to develop a business mindset, there are 5 essential business orientations. So quickly, the first is production orientation. This means that you need to have a general tendency of thinking that helps you to make sure that you never miss out on the production side of your business. Why? Business provides solutions and it adds value to humanity. In fact, that's the reason why a business exists. It exists to provide solutions and it must add value to humanity. Imagine you are busy with other things and you miss out on production. You have just messed up. You don't have a business mindset. Orientate yourself to this. Any kind of business, even church business, for example. Just preparing a sermon, that's part of production. Because sometimes when you use the word production, people think of a plant that produces furniture, for example. And that's obviously a good example of the production side. But at Tibane Group, just preparing a talk, that's part of production. So it may not be something tangible that people will touch, but you are providing solutions. Now, these solutions must be created. So even if, for example, you are not creating anything, but you are a retailer, you don't manufacture, you don't do nothing, you just go to those who are manufacturing, you get that, and you bring it to your customer, that is part of production. That's the production aspect of your business. Why? You are providing a solution, you are creating a solution. And that is why it is critical, therefore, that you must have what we call creative thinking. Remember, this is a business mindset. These are general tendencies of thinking. So that orientation requires that if you want your production orientation to be strong, you must engage in creative thinking. In each of the orientation, there is a thinking that we are proposing, and this thinking, you find it in my earlier book called Master Your Thoughts, Transform Your Life. There are 10 thinking styles there. 5 of them are relevant to business, and one of them is creative thinking, which is relevant to the production orientation. You can learn more from the book with regards to this. The second orientation is process orientation. You need to orientate yourself to the process side of your business. Why? Business is a science. And if it is a science, it means there are methodologies, there are tools, there are models, there are formulae, there are practices, there are frameworks, there are templates. In other words, there are many dots that must be connected if something is a science, if something is a process, which means that these dots, all of them need to be connected. It needs to be understood that what I do at Tibane Group as John Tibane affects what Dr. Alamane Mnene will be doing. It affects what our Chief Operating Officer Nsako will be doing. It affects what our marketing and content developer at Tinashe will be doing. It will affect what other members of the organization will be doing. What we are part of a process. So if I get a deal with a particular organization and that deal is to construct roads and I get paid maybe 50% in advance, I don't run to go buy some big car without having looked at all the dots that must be connected. One of the dots is money for salaries. One of the dots would be buying, maintaining the plant. One of the dots would be buying material, etc., etc. Why? This is a process. And if you don't think that way, you may find yourself spending money on things that you're not supposed to spend money on. It is a process, and if it is a process, it means there must be process mapping. You must know what steps are we going to take in this value chain for us to provide value to humanity. Remember, production is about us creating solutions or providing solutions to humanity. So we are adding value to humanity. But for us to add that value, what steps are we going to take for us to create that value? Which steps are going to be executed by us? Which steps are going to be outsourced to others, etc., etc.? It's a process. And the kind of thinking that you need if you want to be good with process orientation is systems thinking. And Dr. Alamane Mnene is our guru when it comes to systems thinking at Tibane Group. Systems thinking. And if you want to learn more about systems thinking, apart from contacting us, you can also get a book by Peter Senge, which is called The Fifth Discipline. The Fifth Discipline. And Peter Senge is one of the greatest gurus when it comes to systems thinking. Then the third orientation is performance orientation. This is critical for you to pay attention to performance. Why? Business is accountable to its stakeholders and it must meet agreed upon standards. It must meet the needs, it must meet or even exceed expectations from stakeholders. Stakeholders are people who have an interest in your business. And if they have an interest in your business, it means that they have needs and they have expectations. They may have concerns, they may have fears, they may have aspirations, they may have all kinds of things. You need to know that you are supposed to perform. And the kind of thinking that you need here is called discontinuous thinking. We talked about it last week. Discontinuous thinking is the mental courage to identify and abandon certain ways of doing business that do not produce desired results. So, in other words, for you to perform, it means there must be continuous improvement. But continuous improvement is a product of discontinuous thinking. In other words, you must have the mental capacity to stop thinking in a certain way, the kind of way that underpins behaviors and operations that no longer produce results. So whatever is obsolete, whatever is no longer working, you must have the mental courage to abandon that. So for continuous improvement, there's got to be discontinuous thinking. You must stop thinking in a way that no longer helps you. Then there will be continuous improvement, which is then necessary for you to perform so that you are meeting agreed upon standards. The next orientation, and I'm moving fast here, is people orientation. You must pay attention to people if you want to develop a business mindset. Why? Business thrives on people. Yes, business thrives on people. If you remove people from the equation of business, there is no business. So people could be partners, could be employees, could be investors, customers, suppliers, allies, and all kinds of people. You need to pay attention to the people aspect of business. For that, you need a kind of thinking called confluent thinking. It is well described in my book, like I've said, Master Your Thoughts, Transform Your Life. The word confluence was first a geography word, which we now borrowed into business or even into social studies. In geography, the word confluence means the coming together of 2 or 3 or 4 rivers, small rivers usually. When they come together, they create a bigger, more forceful and impactful river. So small rivulets coming together to create a big river. So it's almost like shared thinking, confluent thinking. In other words, getting the ideas of others for you to create a bigger idea. So this people orientation requires that you must be interested in what other people are thinking. So those little things such as suggestion boxes in organizations, it's not just getting people to throw in a suggestion into the box, but you never sit down to actually examine what are the suggestions that people are making. When you walk into banks, you'll find that there is a book there where people are supposed to write suggestions, whether it's compliments or complaints, etc. Do people really sit down and actually examine what people have said? If you have a people orientation, that becomes critical. The climate survey, the employee satisfaction survey, etc., that you do, you need to be studying the results of that survey if you really have a people orientation. Those who work for government, you know of Batupili principles, and one of the principles there is called consultation. consultation. That is critical for you to literally say, I'm going to consult my stakeholders, my customers, so that I hear what really their needs are. That kind of thinking is called confluent thinking. And the last part of, or the last orientation is profit orientation. I've not put it last because it is least important. In fact, all of them are critical if you are to develop a business mindset. So just like that soccer match, scoring a goal or saving a goal or kicking a penalty, etc., all those are critical elements. You must capture them if you are to capture the full match, and never capture things that could be interesting and exciting but are not really part of what a soccer match is. In the same way here, profit orientation is a critical element that you must never miss. Why? Business makes money and needs money to make money. Of course, if you are running an NGO, you may not necessarily call it a profit orientation, but it's more of a sustainability orientation, or if you want to use the letter P, posterity, not prosperity, but posterity. The word posterity talks of longevity and durability and legacy, which means that whatever you are doing, will this organization be there 5 years to come, 10 years to come, 100 years to come? This is a critical thing, and I know that in business they say there is a very important rule in business. In fact, they say there are 3 rules that you must never break in business. Rule number 1, never run out of money. Rule number 2, never run out of money. And rule number 3, very important, never run out of money. Wow. Never run out of cash. Some years ago, I was invited to go to Botswana to go and speak in one of the multi-level marketing company. I charged them 30,000 rands to go give a 45 minutes talk. This was some years ago. But then 2 days before, we had agreed on that fee, and then they called me to say there will be about 500 people. Would you please bring your book? And that book was called, is called Do It Because You Can. They had seen it. It was one of my books. I've written 11 books by God's grace. And my third book, or second book actually, was called Do It Because You Can. Then they said, may you please bring 500 of those books. My God, guess what? I could not. Why? I didn't have money to print 500 books. Imagine in today's money, if the book was 200 bucks, that would be about 100,000 rands just on books. Just carrying the books, I would have had 100,000 rands more in addition to the 30,000 that I charged for speaking. I miss out on the 100,000 rands. Why? I did not have cash. Do you know that you can even miss out on a business opportunity, even just to travel? Literally, just to travel, to go to Durban, to go and speak. You don't have the money to put petrol into your car, and you miss out on that because you ran out of money. Listen to me, business makes money and needs money to make money. And therefore, 3 rules of business. Rule number 1, never run out of cash. Rule number 2, never run out of cash. Rule number 3, never run out of cash. Even if you want to add the 4th rule, rule number 4, never run out of cash. Profit orientation. So it's not really being the lover of money, but it's just understanding that money is critical. And that is why you need to have the harvest thinking or the harvest mentality, that whatever you are sowing, expect that there must be a harvest. Otherwise, then whatever you have sown, if there is no harvest, it was wasted. And that is why big companies, even when they sponsor things, they know there's going to be a return. They sponsor soccer, they sponsor that and that and that, because out of the sponsorship, there will be visibility. So banks and other organizations, they will be sponsoring these things. It's not just throwing money away, it has been well calculated. Business mindset requires business orientations. This could be a relationship. What will be your orientations? Now, this may differ from one business to another. So, for example, you may just zoom in on, we want to have a customer care mindset this year. Why? Because last time our business went bankrupt because we didn't take care of our customers. In the new normal, we are going to set our mind on customer care. Now, you are going to therefore develop a customer care business mindset. And I'm saying to you, for you to have a customer care business mindset, the question is, what are the orientations which, when they are put together, they help you to develop a customer care mindset? You can apply the same approach, whether it's a marriage mindset, and you can even reduce it down to profit mindset. When now you expand on profit, it's no longer an orientation now. Now it becomes a mindset on its own, which means there must be a number of orientations which, when they are put together, they give you a profit mindset. Yes, you are allowed to set your mind on profit. You are allowed to do that. I am hoping that you are going to take this as a concept and understand one thing. And that one thing is, if a crisis has struck in your life, it obliterated the old normal and it has given birth to a new normal. You need to reset your sanity, meaning your mindset. That's what we are concluding today before we start with resetting your sight. Basically, what that means is, what am I going to set my mind on in the new normal if I want to thrive? This was just an example. If you are to set your mind on business, but also you can use different orientations depending on what you are trying to focus on, because there are different business mindsets as well. But like I've said, even one, you can pick up one of the orientations and say our struggle before the crisis was production. Yes, in this example, production is an orientation, but we would like to make it a mindset. Once you make production a mindset, so you'll call it a production mindset, it means you must now break it down and say, what will be the orientations? What will be those thinking tendencies, which when they are put together, they give us a production mindset? I hope that has helped you even as we conclude the Reset Your Sanity. But today, of course, we are dealing with Reset Your Sight. I'm going to do my best. This is going to be a little quicker, and then so that at 7:30 we can have some conversations. So today we are looking at Reset Your Sight. Reset Your Sight. So you will see we dealt with reset your sanity because your mind gets affected by a crisis. Don't lose your mind when you go through a crisis. If you lose it, you need to regain it. But never lose your mind when you go through divorce, because you will need it to contribute to your new marriage or your new relationship. Don't lose your mind when your house gets repossessed. Why? You will need your mind to decorate your new house, which God is going to give you. Now, these are very critical things. Don't get into the new normal with a lost mind. That's really the message of resetting your sanity. So now, let's look at today's session, Resetting Your Sight. And once again, let's remind you that when we deal with these 7 elements, the resetting exercise is both a spiritual and a scientific exercise, especially resetting your sanity and resetting your sight. They are highly spiritual. Then the others are more scientific than they are spiritual. The first two are more spiritual than they are scientific. And we continue to quote this ancient statesperson, King Solomon. In Proverbs 22, verse 3, in the New Living Translation, I've already told you that these are spiritual concepts as well. They've got a spiritual aspect. We have read this over and over again in the previous sessions, that a prudent person foresees danger and takes precautions. To foresee, it means to see in advance. So you see before you jump into the new normal. And you foresee danger, you foresee difficulties, you foresee challenges, you foresee all kinds of things, and you take precautions. But the simpleton, which means the one who does not think properly, because a prudent person is the one who thinks carefully. Prudence means to think carefully, whilst a simpleton is someone who does not think. This one goes blindly on and suffers the consequences. What really this means to us is that getting into the new normal doesn't have to be consequential. Getting into the new normal, it doesn't have to be a punishing process. We can foresee it, we can examine it. Here it is in front of us. Let's examine it and see the dangers that may be there, the challenges that may be there, and we take precautions. If we take precautions, we will not suffer the consequences. We will thrive in the new normal. And that is why, having reset your sanity, you have a great mindset. Now you must see the new normal. That's really the message. See the new normal clearly. I hope you can see clearly now that the rain is gone. It has been very stormy and dusty. Your eyes were full of tears because you were crying. Now it's time to wipe away your tears because there is a new thing that God has for you. Or your tears were full of dust because it was windy. Now the wind is gone. Or it was very cloudy and dark. Now the rain is gone. You better see clearly. And seeing clearly, like Jimmy Cliff says, you will even see the obstacles, but it's okay to see the obstacles because then you can deal with them. It's unlike if you can't even see the obstacles. So allow yourself to see. Liberate yourself to see. There are many people who are afraid to see even the dangers ahead of you. But a prudent person foresees danger. Give yourself the liberty and the freedom to see clearly so you can take precautions. And that is really what we're going to be dealing with in the next few minutes on this segment. Reset your sight. Here are three things quickly. Number one, when you reset your sight, there are a number of things you may want to do as resetting. One of them is to calibrate your lens, which means that you are still using the same lens you used before the crisis, but now you must calibrate it. It was calibrated for the old normal. Now you may have to make some changes on your lens. You are not changing the lens, but you are just calibrating it and focusing it properly so that you can see. Remember, maybe in the past, in the old normal, it was all sunny, but maybe in the new normal, it is all cloudy. So there's a need to calibrate your lens, same lens. But it could be that actually, for you to see clearly in the new normal, you better change the lens altogether. Because remember, you see the way you see because of the viewing instrument you are using. If you want to examine the stars, you are not going to use a microscope. You are going to use a telescope. But if you want to examine microorganisms like bacteria, you are not going to use a telescope. You are going to use a microscope. So I don't know what is required in the new normal for you. What are the things that you are looking at in the new normal? Now that you are setting your mind on something, you better be seeing something. What are the things you are looking at? Do they need a calibration of your lens? Or do they need you to throw away the old lens and buy a new lens? But also, you may have to change your location. Yes, change your location. There is a statement I often make that your standpoint shapes your viewpoint. Your standpoint shapes your viewpoint. In other words, you see things the way you see them because of where you are standing. If you were to shift your standpoint, you would see the same things differently. This is a very important thing. Like now, I'm sitting in front of my laptop. I see the screen of my laptop. If there was someone else sitting on the other side of my laptop, they would see the back of my laptop. So if I describe how the laptop looks like based on what I see words and colors, etc. But whoever would be on the other side, if they were to describe how this laptop is like, they would say it's silver color, and that's all they see because that's how the back of the laptop looks like. If they want to see this view, they have to shift their standpoints. They have to change their location. Maybe you're not really seeing success. You're not seeing prosperity. You're not seeing peace. You are not seeing joy. You never see joy at all. It could be location. It could be location. And by location, it's not really a physical thing. Maybe your social standing, maybe your spiritual standing, whatever it is, you need to make some shifts in your life. And when you shift your standpoint, you are shaping your viewpoint. But it's important for me to make a very important observation. Be aware that when you are dealing with the issue of seeing now at a spiritual level, watch this. There are certain things that you are going to juggle and work on and be aware of. Number one is the power of faith. The power of faith. Please read this at home in Psalms 27, verse 13. I don't have the time to go through it. Psalms 27, verse 13. King David says, I would have fainted unless I had believed to see the goodness of the Lord in the land of the living. What a powerful verse. He says, I would have fainted. The only thing that stopped me from fainting was I believed to see the goodness of the Lord in the land of the living. Let me tell you something. There are people who will remain sane and thrive in the new normal because they believe to see something good in the new normal. They believe that this crisis has come to bring me something good. There is power of faith. The second thing that you need to be aware of is what I call the peril of fear. The peril or the tragedy of fear. Read this in Job chapter 3, verse 25. Job chapter 3, verse 25. Job says, for the thing which I greatly feared has come upon me, and what I dreaded has happened to me. The word to dread, it means to avoid. The thing that I am greatly afraid of has come upon me. And the thing that I've been trying to avoid has happened to me. That is the peril of fear. Whatever you are afraid of, if that fear overwhelms you, you actually attract the thing. Believe it or not, that's exactly what it is. It's like if you are trying to avoid things, the things you are spending your time in avoiding, you actually attract them. Because to avoid, it takes lots of energy. The same energy that you needed to create something, you have used it in avoidance. So, for example, we must not avoid poverty. We must pursue prosperity. Don't spend your energy avoiding poverty, but rather spend your energy pursuing prosperity. Because the same energy you use to avoid things is the same emotional and spiritual energy that you need to create things. This is a crucial thing. Unfortunately, we don't have much time. Then the other thing is the paradox of focus. The paradox of focus. A paradox is something that has got two sides that are both true, but they are contradictory. Two sides of the thing that are both correct or true, but they are contradictory. So when we normally talk about you must focus, because when you focus, you become very clear on things, and that's true. But that's the true part, that the one part of it is that the more you focus on a thing, the clearer you become. So it's like taking a magnifying glass and you put it on some letters on the book, it becomes clearer. But guess what? It is also true, and that's the opposite side of it. If you are focusing on the east, you become blind to the west. Now, that is a paradox of focus, which means that you can become clearer on one thing and become blind on another, and yet both of them are important. In other words, the thing you are clear about and the thing you are blind to, they may both be important in your life. So, for example, I studied medicine for 7 years and practiced for 7 years. I became very clear on clinical issues, vomiting, coughing, and diarrhea. I became very clear. And that clarity made me to have lots of patients coming to me because of my clarity on clinical issues. And I helped them and I made lots of money. But guess what? I lost lots of money. Why? I was blind to financial issues. Why? At medical school, they never taught us financial management. They never taught us how to interview a secretary. They never taught us on how to take stock. Yeah, believe it or not, how to take stock. And all of a sudden, here am I in a surgery in Mamelodi. Now I've got stock. Now I must interview a secretary. Now I must do that. All these things are business aspects, which they never taught me. So I spent 7 years becoming clearer and clearer on clinical issues, but I was becoming blinder and blinder and blinder on business issues. Be aware of that, even as you work on the issue of resetting your sight. Wow. We see not with our naked eyes, but with our mental eyes. You will get this in the book. I'm not going to spend more time, but even as you reset your sight, remember what we call polyocular sight. Polyocular sight. Poly means many, ocular means eyes, but this time, these are the eyes of the mind. It is a sight that is a product of many eyes of the mind. And these eyes of the mind basically are the functions of the mind. You use your mind to remember, that's hindsight. You use your mind to reason, that's insight. You use your mind to imagine the future, that's foresight. You use your mind to analyze the surroundings, that's parasight. And we call that circumspect. Circumspect, the word circum means around, like in circumcision, to incise around, circumcision, to incise around. But the word spect means to see. It's a Latin word for the word to see, like to inspect, or you find it in spectacles, etc. So when you circumspect, you look around. You want to see the world through the eyes of your customers, your stakeholders, your mentors, your coaches, your partners, etc. Then you develop parasight. That word parasite, there, I created it myself. It's my own word. I'm a professor. I'm allowed to do that. And then, of course, when you look up to God, that's called theosight. Theo, the word theo means God, or that which you believe in. So you look up to God. And how do we look up to God? Through meditation, as we meditate on his word, because the word was in the beginning, the Word was with God, and the Word was God. So when you meditate on the Word, you are actually meditating on God Himself. So you develop a theocyte, and I'm using the word contemplate, but basically that means meditation. Read that in the book because I need to move fast now to this. Let me check my time. Ha ha ha. John Tibane, 1932. My goodness. Reset your sight. Listen, here's a fundamental statement. If there is no place called there, and I tell you there is a place called there, crisis always creates a new normal, a new world, a new normal, a new there, a new there. There's a there. If there is no place called there, and the only place we have is the place called here, then moving forward or changing or transformation is unnecessary. You and me know that there is a place called there. And if there is a place called there, you better see it clearly. So here are 5 strategic questions. You will get these as part of your notes, which I want you to work on them at home. And next week, when we come back, when we deal with resetting your stage, we will start with you sharing with us some answers to this question. What kind of a place is a new normal? The American Army in 2014, they called the new normal the VUCA well, volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous. We have adopted that also to describe our new normal. But use your own words. When you look at the new normal, what kind of a place is the new normal? Because if you don't understand the place called the new normal, then you're probably not going to position yourself properly for it. Will I have space in the new normal? That in business is called market share. It's possible for you to find yourself in the new place, in the new normal, in the new place called the new normal, but without having space in that place, which means that you have been pushed into a corner by competitors. So you had a business in the old normal, but you don't have a business in the new normal. You had a job in the old normal, but you don't have a job in the new normal. You were in a relationship in the old normal, and the crisis came. Now you are no longer in a relationship. So it's possible to find yourself in a place, but without space, or with a small space, you are suffocating. Will I have space in the new normal? What race will I run in the new normal? This is a very important question. And when we talk about race, sometimes we're talking a lot about competing with others. But here, I want you to focus on yourself. Maybe you were fearful, now you must outrun fear. Maybe you were full of doubt in the past, now you must run faster than doubt. Maybe you were poor, now you must run faster than poverty. Maybe you didn't meet your deadlines all the time, now you must run faster than that. So what race are you going to be running in the new normal? On what will I up my pace in the new normal? In other words, what are the areas of improvement? Is it profitability? Is it performance? Is it, act of kindness, etc., etc.? And will I acknowledge and honor the grace for the new normal? It may be daunting to you when you think about the place called the new normal, whether you'll have space or not, the race you must run, the pace you must increase. But I'm here to tell you that for every place there is grace. For you to expand your space, there is grace that is sufficient for that. For you to run your race, God has given you enough grace for that. If you want to increase some pace, it may take a lot of effort, but by the grace of God, you can do that. So be willing, therefore, to acknowledge and honor the grace for the new place. Never undermine yourself. The fact that you are still alive, you have been given a chance to exist in the new normal, not just to breathe in oxygen, but also to make a difference in your generation. And then, of course, this you'll also get on your notes because I want us to be talking now briefly, like I promised. I really did my best. But as part of Resetting your sight. This is self-explanatory, but very important. You need to discern. You need to discern the new normal. Analyze the new normal and bounce forward. How do you do that? Projection, positioning, promotion, and performance. By projection, really, I'm saying project your mind into the future. Discern and analyze, see, scrutinize the future context in terms of what will be the new, or what are the new needs in the new normal? What are the new threats? What are new opportunities? What about new rules of doing business or conducting life in the new normal? What about standards, parameters, whatever you want to name? Project your mind into the future and examine based on what has been happening as you see the world changing. It is certainly moving in a certain direction. Even apart from COVID-19 pandemic, the world has been moving in a certain direction. With the fourth industrial revolution, the world has been moving in a certain direction. The question is, in the future context, what kinds of needs are there? Threats, opportunities, rules, expectations, regulations, standards, etc. Having done that, position yourself for it. In other words, reinvent yourself for a new role in the future context. Your role is probably going to change. It may be the same role, but the way it is now structured is going to change a little bit if indeed things have changed. So, what new knowledge do you need? What new skills? What about methods? What about approaches? What about tools, products, services, systems, technologies, etc.? Having done that, promote yourself now. Long before you get there, promote yourself right now. Tell your clients and your followers about your future offerings. Tell them why you will still be the provider of choice in the future context, how you will still be relevant to them in the future context. Sell the future. Yes, sell the future. And then, of course, when that future arrives, begin to implement. In other words, you begin to play your new role and master the rules of the new game. But what's important about item number 4 there is that you don't wait for the future to come. You actually start now and you behave as if you are already in the new normal. Let me stop right here before Alamein kills me. So let's check it out now. I know I was speaking very fast. Bear with me, but there is so much in my heart that I really wanted to share with you. So if you want to chat with me, you want to ask a question or you want to make an observation, please raise up your hand and then talk to us. If you and then Alamein will see which hand is up. Then I will let that person speak. If you can't raise up your hand, you just unmute and then we will recognize you. And thank you so much for bearing with me. I thought I was going to give you lots of time, but I haven't. So let's go to you now. Anybody who has made an observation, tell us who you are, what you're doing quickly, and then make an observation or ask a question. We've got some 20 minutes still to go. Thank you so much. Anybody? Does this thing make sense to anyone? Does it? Do you have a question to ask? Are you getting confused? Is it a daunting task for you to reset your sight? Are you afraid? All right, let's talk to Bongani. Bongani Ntuli. You have not raised your hand, but welcome, Bongani. You are joining us for the first time today. We want to welcome you. How are you, Bongani? All right, let's go to Masichaba Sesing. Masichaba?
Yes, doctor. Thank you so much for extending, for allowing me to participate today.
Yes.
I have learned a lot, I must say, and I'm very grateful that through Usisi Bongi, you were able to allow me to be part of this group, because really the new normal has presented a lot of challenges, especially to us as leaders, and also as mothers who have children at school. Yeah, it has changed the way that we do things, and it has certainly also developed a lot of other habits from the people that we are leading. For example, others are so used to staying at home. Getting them to come at work is a challenge, and it takes a lot of strain to you as a leader. So I read the book, I've received it, and the session has really made everything to make sense. And I'm very grateful about the principles that you have shared with us today. Yeah, there's just
What
so much
organization are you
that I've
leading?
learned.
What organization are you leading, Ms. Chaba?
I am in the Free State Provincial Treasury. I am the Provincial Accountant General. It's at the DDG, Deputy Director General level.
Wow, wonderful. Now, thank you so much. We are hoping that one day we'll touch base with your organization over there to come and practicalize some of these things as the Lord allows. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you, Dr. Tibane. Thank you, and may God bless you.
Yeah. Tulani Kwabe. Talk to us, Tulani. What's happening in your mind? Good evening.
Yes, good evening, Prof and colleagues. Thank you very much for the opportunity. It's yeah, I'm sitting here trying to absorb and think. I'm wearing two hats. I'm in a church environment. I work as a CEO of the church, and also on the side, you know, in the marketplace. But what I've observed, in particular, you know, in the church environment, this catalytic event called COVID-19, I think it caught us totally unprepared. By that I mean mainly on the issue of 4IR, you know, the fourth industrial revolution. I think most churches are finding themselves having to adapt to the new normal, but at the same time operating using, you know, old tools, if I may. It's with the hope that things will go back to the you know to normal again. So this statement of bouncing forward is probably not prevalent in this environment. We sort of looking at bouncing back, you know, to where we were, because that's more the comfortable way of dealing with things, and also what we know. I think there is this kind of fear of the new environment, if I may use the word fear cautiously there. So I think me in particular, I think it's giving me, there's a lot I'm thinking about in terms of not just, I think, the church that I work for, but how as a church universal, we should actually be going forward. I think it's a challenge with most. Some churches may not even be able to, I think, to reopen, because there's only one stream of income, which is setting the baskets around and people having to offer. The you know, those who are probably a little bit embracing this 4IR are able to continue So it's quite a challenge, but
Yeah.
it's challenging
Yeah.
me to actually challenge those, in my environment, in my sphere of influence, to actually look at better ways and other new ways of dealing with this
No,
environment.
thank you so much. Yeah, thank you so much for sharing those insights that this thing is cutting across. Bongani, are you able to talk to us now? I'm trying to give a chance to those who were not with us last week first. Bongani? Bongani, are you able to unmute and talk to us? Okay, if not, any other person who would like to chat a little bit?
Hello, I'm looking for this
Yes.
thing to raise. It's Patricia here. Hi, everyone.
Welcome, Patricia.
So from my side, you spoke. So, Professor, you spoke about your words were being fearful. You've been fearful. So, what I would like to say there, just turn your fear into fuel. So, if you were being fearful, just turn your fear into fuel. And what I'd like to share, what resonates with me when you ask the question, will I have a space in the new normal? Then now curiosity, I just want to wish everyone curiosity was here, the strong desire to know or learn something new, and the inquisitive thinking where you are able to explore situations, options, just make the best use of what you have, exploring different options of what you have, and never stress about something you don't really have. So meaning whatever you have now, make the best use of it so that you can get what you do not have. And, when you have that inquisitive mind, have, that kind of investigation where you explore, but you also investigate those different options and situations and be open to learning, and the critical questions that you need to ask yourself when you're doing all that. So in the new normal, when you have that inquisitive thinking, you ask yourself those 7 critical questions. Number 1, it's who. So normally in the business, we use who, meaning who will be your customers. If you have a business, who will be your employees, who will be your suppliers, who will be your competitors. Then the other question is what. So how are you going to do what you want to do, the strategy, the marketing products that you want to market, where the distribution or outsourcing, when strategic planning, annual, weekly, you have your time frame, why, the ways of communication, the change management, and you look at how that is marketing. And the last one is how much. You have your investment plan. You spoke about, Professor, you spoke about the situation or the scenario where you couldn't raise cash to buy, to print, and you couldn't sell those books for the 500 people that were going to be in the conference. So obviously that comes to investment plan as to how much, and keep on saving and keep on saving. That will be my thoughts for today. Thank you.
You're muted.
Yeah, thank you so much, Patricia. Any other person who wants to make an observation or ask a question?
Bongani had unmuted earlier. I don't know if he's able to unmute.
Yeah, Bongani, welcome. I've been wanting to hear your voice, Bongani. Maybe struggling to unmute there. Okay. Any other person? Otherwise, then I will give over to Tinashe for some announcements. All right, thank you.
Okay, just a second. So I was just giving opportunity to other guys. Thank you so much, Prof. I think that was really good. And
who is
I think
this
the
one?
most
Who is talking?
Okay, so the one speaking is Alamain Nkateko. Then I'm a senior consultant with Tibane Group. And you know, I think the most daunting part to the exercise is the whole reimagining yourself, reinventing yourself, because we have poured time and energy to who we are or what we thought we wanted to achieve. And now the new normal comes in and shakes that foundation. And obviously, as you said, no matter what kind of new normal it may be, so the repositioning ourselves. I mean, if you go through the whole cycle of projection and then going to positioning, repositioning yourself really becomes the scarier part of it all. But what is interesting, and that's the part that I want to leave with all the colleagues present, is to say once we then really start on the journey of positioning ourselves, they'll be amazed at what capabilities and abilities that they had. In fact, every crisis presents something that is even better than before if you emerge. As you'd say, Professor T, that you emerge even stronger. So at times when we are relaxed, at times when we are not pursuing, at times when we sort of complacent, the shaking of the rocking of our boat helps us to realize that which was already we had, but also that which we never even thought we had. So the most scarier part is actually positioning. But once you start that journey, I promise you'll start to realize that you've been holding yourself back. There's actually better that is awaiting on the other side. So it's important to go through the cycle and to be able to commit to the journey of really projecting and positioning yourself so that everything else will start to fall into place. That's all from me.
Thank you so much, Dr. Alamain Mnene. Thank you so much, colleagues. I will give over to Tinashe, but just as a reminder, our next session, it's next week on the 3rd, and we will be dealing with resetting your stage, because the storms that come in our lives, they are not only just storms in terms of affecting our eyes, but it also, the crisis can be in the form of an earthquake, which comes to shake the foundation upon which your business has been built. And if you just repair the walls and the shattered window panes without having attended to the stage, you are doing that in vain. And that's really the essence of resetting your stage. We will deal with that next week. Then thereafter, it will be a free session where we'll be dealing with resetting your sales, after which we will then deal with other 3 that will be paid segments. So thank you so much for today. Let me give over to our host, Tinashe Gombiro.
Thank you, Prof, for that. Thank you, colleagues, for joining us. I'm seeing Bongani just typed a message here. Thank you very much, Prof, and the team for the insightful presentation. As always, I am feeling challenged and very charged up. I'm battling technology. All right, hope to have a talk with you, Bongani, next time, but thank you for joining us. Thank you, colleagues. Thank you, Bongani. Thank you, Masechaba, Tsako, Alamain, Ria, Tulani, Tumi, Patricia. Thank you all. I hope I didn't miss anybody. Thank you for spending this time with us. I am excited that we managed to make the time. I was worried at some point that we will probably exceed again as we did last week. But thank you, Prof, for at least honoring your word for ending on time. The reason why we go so long and then also give you this so much time for you to engage is for you to also ask questions, ask for points of clarity. If there's a slide you missed or something that needs to be repeated and emphasized, that's why we always open it up for you. So do not hesitate to take up that opportunity. Having said that, do connect with us on Twitter, on LinkedIn, on YouTube. You are just searching for Tibane Group on those platforms. You'll find us. If you haven't got the book, you can find it at Books, just about anywhere. You will find it at certain outlets of exclusive books. Alternatively, there's an email that I've just sent out in the chat there. Just take that, send us an email. We will guide you on where we can get the book, or you can get it from us. But thank you, colleagues, once again. I should stop stalling and release you now. It's been wonderful. Reset your site. I hope you've been motivated, you've been inspired, you've been educated, and you're ready to reset your site in the new normal. Thank you, Prof, once again. Thank you to my Tibane Group colleagues. See you again next week, same time, 6:30 Wednesday, with Reset Your Stage. Thank you.